You're listening to the Flourish Mindset, where we talk to entrepreneurs and discover their successes, their failures, and their secrets to winning at business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Flourish Mindset. With me today, I have Sara Worwa. She is the owner and founder of Elite Transaction Coordinators. She's also a realtor and a mentor to EXP agents who are just starting out in the business. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Sara, I am so excited to have you here because you have taken something that there was a need for and not a lot of people like to do. And typically in the transaction world, people who are really phenomenal with transaction work and the process and all the details are not entrepreneurs. So how did you go from the transaction world into the entrepreneurship world, or did it go a different way?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how I got started. Like you said, like the personality type of someone who wants to sit behind a computer and process paperwork all day is not necessarily always a big dreamer, thinker, want to jump in and take big risks like that. So the way I started was I was an admin transaction coordinator on a real estate team. And that was super fun. I learned a ton, and that's actually how I even came to know what this was. That's the biggest thing people say to me is like, what do you even do? So from there, I basically felt like I had kind of peaked out where I was. And I saw this gap. It's an industry where your options are you join a team and pay in part of your commission to do the paperwork, the marketing, all that. There's a huge value for that. And that's for some people. To do it yourself. So then you're running around, running your business, marketing, finances, and doing your own paperwork. Or I was like, there has to be an option here where they can hire out a part of this work. And then it turned out nationally there was, other people doing this, which is great. But I'm the first one to bring it here.
Right. And I think like the Fargo-Moorhead area, North Dakota in general is a little bit lagging in times and the way we do business. I mean, I remember when I became a realtor, I had to like fill out a paper copy and mail it in the mail to the office and wait like a week to hear anything back from them to even like get the application.
Yeah.
So I love that you're ahead of the time in identifying things in this area that do need to be hit. There's got to be a lot of challenges because we're older in the way we do things in North Dakota. And can you tell us about some of the challenges maybe you've overcome or some of the no's that you've had that you decided to not take?
Yeah. I've definitely had to overcome some hurdles to get this even up and going. There's definitely been people that have supported me from the beginning, which is great too. Even just rules within our board, making sure we're following the rules, but we're doing something that no one's ever done before. So, just overcoming all those and just not letting the no's stop me. There's a way. It's like, let's figure out what the rules are and how to make them work with what we're trying to do.
And I love that. Now, you are balancing that but still being a realtor and you're still mentoring. How do you incorporate your day or how do you work out your day to kind of take everything in?
So I originally, when I started Elite Transaction Coordinators, it had a different name then, but when I started, that was my primary focus, building that up, trying to find other agents. And it was a great stepping stone for me to learn how to be a realtor better. I see a million different situations doing other people's paperwork and seeing what situations they get into. So it really helped me become a better agent, knowing how to handle different situations, seeing how other people handle situations. And then what really was my tipping point of like, I need to change how I'm balancing things because I was not balancing things. I actually got engaged and I was starting to plan my wedding and I was like, I cannot take 2 weeks off of work. I can't do this. And I'm like, okay, this is a problem. You should be able to have a little balance here, a little help. So Elite grew. I started finding people that aligned our values and started training them. And then they started really running with those tasks, the day-to-day tasks. So now my role there is more in developing the company, getting more agents on board, which allows me to have a little bit more time to be an agent. And then mentoring, that kind of just aligns too. It's all part of like mentoring people that I think will be great realtors. I'm not just going to take anybody on, someone who I think has great potential, who we align in how we want to run things. And then just really, I have to make a conscious effort of making time for them. And a lot of that comes back to, I had so many people take time out of their business when I was getting started to help me, to answer my questions, to really mentor me. And I really leaned on a lot of those people and other agents in town here that were so helpful, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And so that also makes me want to do the same for other people. And I think even just all those connections and working with different people and different types of people in different groups, like that all helps propel the businesses forward to things that like I couldn't have even imagined with just some of these connections.
I think that's so awesome. And I'm going to adjust this because I can't see you all the way. But I love that, because that's the whole point of this podcast, is to provide knowledge and support to people who are getting started in business or, are trying something new in their world. So I love that you saw that opportunity. You knew how important it was in your own life, and you felt it was important enough that you went out and you sought out other people to do that with. And really just taking that leap and like that stand is just so phenomenal, because there aren't a lot of people who just willingly go like, here, let me just take time out of my day and my energy to pour into you. But you saw that as a need that you wanted to fill without seeing anything else. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah. I think another huge part of it is just like, there is more than one way to do things. And like when we, when I align myself with someone, how can we make this work really well for both of us? Like there are benefits for me doing it, and then there's benefits for them having me around too. And it's like, I feel like, especially in real estate, you get told like, this is how you do it. This is what we're supposed to be doing. This is how this setup looks, and this is how it works. But there are, everything is negotiable. Everything's different. You can do things your own way, and it can work too.
Right. There isn't one way to do something. I agree. You kind of touched on it a little bit already, but you mentioned that you had some amazing people in your life that really showed you how important it was to be an amazing person in someone else's life. Can you tell me a little bit about like the mentors that you had and the type of impact that they had in your life? Yeah.
There's agents in town here. Tina Craft is a huge one. She helped me for sure get to where I am. They were some of my first clients at Elite TCs, and they took definitely time out of their lives to teach me. But then I also at the same time hoped that I was providing some value to them too. Some of those agents are not detail people necessarily, and they don't want to sit and do processes all day. So, when I was able to provide that to them, but then also see how they're running their business and get a real inside look to what they're doing and how I can take those concepts for myself and run a business the way I want to run it, was super cool. There's many agents in town, honestly, that went out of their way for me. Derek is another big one. Just when, with the rules and everything, he brought a new concept to town too. And so just having him kind of back me a little bit when I was first starting was huge.
That's awesome. And I think that, when people take that chance on you and support you, it makes you that much more excited to pour back into them, or, like you did, turn around and pour back into your community. So that's great. What are some of the lessons you've been learning from mentoring other people?
Not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody's the same as me. I also think, though, that it's so awesome to hear the questions they ask you, too, because brings new perspective to things that I'm teaching them. Like, oh, I've never thought of it that way. Right. As well as just, some people, it's cold calling is their way to do things. Other people, it's mortifying to them. So it's just so interesting to see how people do plan to do their business, and then how we can take our fundamentals and our rules and apply it in so many different ways.
Right. I think that's so important. I think a lot of times with leaders in particular, I'm going to lead you the way I want to lead you. I'm going to lead you what would be beneficial for me. I'm going to mentor you and talk to you the way I would want to be talked to. And yes, golden rule is great. But really what it comes down to is you need to meet people where they're at. You need to figure out what motivates them and what drives them, and you need to talk to them at their level.
Yes.
And every single person, like you said, is so different. So meeting them where they are and teaching them at their level.
100%.
Some people don't care about the money. They care about being part of a vision. Some people care about the money and nothing about anything else. And I think there's a good balance in finding that too.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too. It's just what is motivating people. Because I've had people that literally don't need the money. They don't care. They just want to feel like they have a purpose. They're useful. And then I have other people that are like, I need money. This is the only reason I'm doing this. But then even working with those people and trying to see, you need money, but let's make this fun. Let's do something you're going to enjoy doing. And then I also think, with the variety of things I'm providing, I've had agents who came to me, I want to be an agent. We start training them, we start going through it, and they realize this is not for me necessarily. One person specifically too, she was a killer transaction coordinator. She started working with me on that end of things. And that was a great way. Again, that's a great base for a realtor too, is to learn from that. You learn all the paperwork, you learn all the rules, you learn how the process really works if you've never been through it before. And then there's so many things related to what we do that people can do. Right. Maybe becoming a real estate photographer or, there's a lender, whatever. There's just so many different avenues that people can take. So it's also not shoving them into a box. You said you want to be a realtor, so that's what you have to do. Right.
And real estate is hard.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of burnout. The statistic from NAR is that 85% of realtors will fall out of the business after 5 years. That means only 15% last more than 5 years. And that's huge. And you helping them identify where their passions lie so that they can move into something else down the road is such an impactful piece of partnering with you, I think.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about surrounding yourself with the right people, knowing enough people, because that's part of it too, right?
Yeah.
So how do you make an effort to surround yourself with the right people or finding the right people to connect with?
Yeah, I think that is the biggest part of my business, is just finding people and other companies. So in what we do, you're working with different title, mortgage, all these people, and really building a strong connection with those people you're working with. And knowing that it will come back to you, maybe not I'm not going to send you a client directly, but it always does come back. It always is great. And it's great to have people and trust, because then when you're referring them out to other people, you know exactly how they run their business, you know exactly how they handle things, and it's on the same page of what you're doing. And that's what I've really noticed, is a lot of this stuff does come back to me in a way that I could never even predict or imagine. And some of it's just, I ran into a person at a countertop store, and I went with my clients, and it was, we just connected, and now she's an agent with me. And
awesome.
So random, but just being nice. And she just loved how I presented my clients and worked with my clients, and we just connected on a level. And it's I couldn't even tell someone, go do this to get to the next level. It's literally so random.
Right. Well, and you can't be an expert in everything, and having those relationships of, hey, can I call you and talk you through this item? I know we have a great relationship with the title company in town, and I don't know how many times I've called one of the owners and just said, hey, I have this question. And it didn't even necessarily have to do with maybe real estate, or maybe it was nothing to do with the transaction, but I just wanted perception. Yes. And it's so amazing to have those relationships that can give you new insight into new things too.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more, like, what are some podcasts that you like to listen to?
Okay, so I, like you said, do not physically sit down and read books. I am all about the podcast, Audible, but I'm up and moving all day long, driving around. I love fun podcasts, but Socially Modern, I love. It's an EXP agent who talks about being in the 21st century, advertising online, things like that.
Sure.
I also am very into money podcasts because I'm when I started, I knew nothing about money related to business, like taxes, write-offs, all these things. So Money with Katie, things like that. I also think it's important. Random way I get information is just on Instagram, following people that are doing what I'm doing and seeing how they're doing it and how they present to clients too. I think that's a fascinating way to learn things.
There is no shortage of information in the world right now, and it's always at our fingertips. And I love that you have been able to find the things that drive you, and you're passionate about. I think that's the hard part for me is I get so distracted with so many things, and so like I also have a hard time sitting down and reading books. So that's why I also like podcasts or Audible. I'm huge on Audible. Even YouTube has a lot of books now, and people forget how much time you spend in a car.
Yes,
and just even if you only spend the time in a car bettering yourself through listening to something positive or even fun and just giving yourself that brain break. You can have such an impact on your life. And
in the car doing daily things, I have my ear pods in and I'm like doing laundry. At the grocery store, I have it in just because what else am I doing? I might as well be listening to something.
Right. No, I do the same. Then I have to be conscious, like, greet people and make sure I'm still smiling and not scary. I have the resting frown face, we call it.
Yes.
And so like I have to like make sure and make effort to like don't get so caught up in whatever I'm listening to.
So your client's not like waving you down across the store, like, hello, are you gonna notice me?
I actually, I think that's like a great topic though, like a conversation starter. Like I was sitting next to somebody at one of my son's basketball games and we brought up something and then all of a sudden we started talking about podcasts and like it opened up this whole conversation. I'm really bad with small talk and I'm really bad with like meeting new people because of small talk. But like it's a great place to just start a conversation and find like common ground.
It's so much more common now and it's kind of like asking for a Netflix recommendation. Like, what do you listen to? And you learn so much about what a person is like when you hear what they're listening to.
Although I feel like there's like the generic, I listen to true crime. I'm like, most people do.
So everyone.
What else?
I mean, it is entertaining.
It is. All right. So we listen to podcasts, money. What other passions do you have? Like, what is driving you to stay in real estate? What's driving you to have this transaction company? I know you have some other things in the works. Like, where is that passion from? Like, what's driving it?
That is such a hard question, honestly. It is so funny because when you're working at a job with your boss hovering over you, you're like, he's motivating me every day to like get up and show up to work, and nobody's doing that for me anymore. At the start of all this, I mean, it was money. Like, I need to do this and then I will make money. That's the only way. But even then, I feel like naturally I am just like very self-motivated person. I've always like worked multiple jobs, worked full-time while I'm in college, like things like that. But knowing that what I put into my business, I will directly get out, which is one of the beautiful things about being self-employed entrepreneur, is whatever you're putting in, you can get it back out, and you can see direct results. Like when I see those direct results, it just pushes me farther and farther. Also, all the people that are in my circle now, we have 5 girls at Elite Transactions now, which for me is a huge step when it was just me a couple years ago.
Right.
But even then, knowing that they're depending on me to get up every day and do this is a huge factor for me. And then to do more, I don't know. I love what I do. I really do. I love helping people. I love helping clients, finding creative ways to do things. It all just keeps pushing me to move forward.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with Elite Transactions and what you're working on, do you have like a set mission statement for yourself?
No, I should though.
Okay. I was just curious, like just the way you talk about it with passion, I felt like there was maybe something there.
I mean, originally our mission statement was something along, this should be set in stone, but it was something along the lines of helping agents build their business so that like taking things off their plate so that they can go out and make more money and sell more houses and help more people get into houses. Right. That was our initial goal. You know, what can we do to make your job easier so that you're not, you know, sitting in front of a computer for 4 hours doing paperwork when, you know, someone can be much better, faster, more efficient at it and actually like do a better job than you're even doing, honestly.
Well, absolutely. I mean, how many realtors, like, they are not detail oriented for the most part. I mean, there are going to be the realtors that are detail oriented, but like, how many like boxes do they miss? All those things that could open themselves to lawsuits, open themselves up
100%.
to like a voided contract, all kinds of things. So having somebody who's knowledgeable in that and good at it, taking that on and relieving that stress from their plate is huge. So, I mean, I think that's still what you guys do.
Yes.
And you're freeing up people's mindset, time, and burdens. Yes. And you're taking those burdens on yourself, but you're giving it to people who are passionate about it, that it isn't burden to. And that's the whole like point is like leveraging the right people, right? You made 100%. The connections and leveraging people the right way.
Yeah, it's so interesting because even just agents, like I am detail oriented, and now that I'm doing agent things, I'm like, I don't know how people are doing this by themselves because it's so many little things to think about. That I even use Elite TCs and have someone helping me because there's timelines, there's little check boxes, so many little things to miss that it's like, if I can have someone behind me catching all those little things, making sure nothing is missed. And then, you know, we've also built our systems to be like, every time we run into a hiccup in a transaction, what can we do in our system to try to prevent that from ever happening in the future? So even for newer agents that like maybe don't even know what could go wrong, we're there trying to stop all that stuff from even happening before it happens. So you can't stop everything, but you know, it's also just like a security blanket too for them.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of the trial and error, right? And failing forward and learning from other people's mistakes or your own and failing forward with those. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe one of the big mistakes you have made or one of the failures you've had that you've learned from? Maybe not in a transaction, but just in business.
Let's see, a specific one. I mean, I can tell you one that happened to an agent, but like they wrote up a new construction purchase agreement, had it all negotiated and forgot to write the deck on.
Okay.
And, you know, decks aren't cheap.
Oh.
So the agent, you know, then we're negotiating who's covering that, who's doing that. Again, like just learning from the mistakes.
Right.
See, okay, make sure we're not missing any details. Make sure we're doing what we need to do. Even just in business, though, I mean, I've made a million mistakes, honestly. Right. Everybody has. But really, like, cliche, learn from your mistakes. But honestly, like, what did I do? What can I do in the future to make sure this never happens again?
Right. And I think people fear making mistakes, and sometimes it's just nipping that fear in the bud, make the mistake, and then move forward because you're just not going to grow without it.
Gonna make mistakes. Even if you do everything you can to avoid mistakes, it's gonna happen. We're humans. It's gonna happen. And it's like, okay, but like mitigate them as much as you can. And then like, what can you do? Why did this happen? how can we stop this from happening again? And again, that's a huge part of mentoring. Even like I've gone through some terrible hiccups during a real estate transaction or seen it happen. So if I can stop it from happening to someone else and explain what happened, they could maybe, write things differently, handle things differently so it doesn't happen again.
I love that. And actually, you touched on a whole other thing there, but explaining why. That is such a piece of it too, right? Like, especially in mentorship and leadership, it is you can go and you can tell someone, don't do this, and you need to do it this way. But if you can go to that person and say, don't do this, you need to do it this way, because, and explain to them so that they can have a tangible piece coming back to them and that they connect with it so that they can learn better.
Yes.
And I love that you take the time to explain it to them so that they can be successful in the future.
Yes. And then if it's not that exact situation again, they can still use pieces of that so they're not calling me with every little thing. It's so
that does happen.
It does. Well, and then I've even started, what 3 places have you checked before you called me? Because I have people that will call me for every little thing. And I'm like, did you even try to find an answer for this? Not that I'm not willing to help, but you learn by discovering, and then you learn where you find this information, how to find this information, where do I go to get this information, so that next time you know. And then you do have a better understanding of what's happening. Because what we do is honestly very complex. People don't understand what we're doing, but there's a lot of little details and things. And I'm still learning new parts about real estate every single day. And it's just fascinating, like how if you don't get your foundations down, though, and learn all that when you're starting, when you get to an advanced level, it's like going to be foreign language.
Right. Making sure you're getting it figured out, the kinks worked out at the beginning. And that's what you've done is you kind of worked on everything, got the kinks worked out. And then as you were getting ready to get married, you no longer wanted the business to control you. And you were able to pass it off because you had figured out some of those kinks ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Do you have any like tools or technology that you use on a regular basis that would maybe be good for somebody who's either in real estate or looking to start out their own business?
We're very technology facing. Elite TCs has been started as, I honestly, when I started, I wanted to go to Arizona in the winters. So I was like, let's put everything 100% online so that nobody cares where I'm sitting. They truly don't. Everything is online these days. Even in real estate, you might have to get someone to sign something physically, but 90% of the time they're signing electronically anyway.
Right. And the physical ones can be done at any bank or anywhere there's a notary.
Yes. And as a TC, I'm not getting those signatures anyway, so that's fine. So, all day, that's all I'm doing is technology. We use open close for my transaction coordination. It's a nightmare to set up, and you have to definitely put in hours and hours and hours. But once you get it set up, it's great. But for other people running business, the littlest apps help me so much. Canva, do all the marketing. It's so easy now. You can make an Instagram story with your colors branded on your phone in 10 seconds. Miles IQ, I wish someone told me to download that the second I became an entrepreneur, like start tracking your miles.
Yes, for write-offs, right?
Yes, for write-offs. Like it pops up every time I get out of my car, was that business or personal? Even just the accounting software we use is an app on my phone. So, when we finish, anybody can go on and go send a bill really quickly. I think the biggest thing is finding whatever technology works for you and really make technology work for you because, there's definitely agents out there that are still handwriting contracts and everything. And it's like, you can have that done in under 10 minutes, what would take you an hour. So even finding the technology, setting it up, it's tedious, but it's usually worth it in the end to streamline things.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think so many times people do start setting it up and then they get bored with it or it took too long and they have to focus on their parts of their business. Yeah. And they never finish setting it up or they never actually put the effort into it. So then they're coming back complaining, well, this isn't working the way I wanted it to, or it's too frustrating, or they just don't even use it. And then they're wasting all this money. So yes. And that goes back to what you said already, solid foundation so that you can move forward.
Yeah.
And putting the time and effort into it.
Yeah. And, if it's not going to be something you use, obviously don't do it. But there's also very young people who are super tech savvy that are going to be more than willing to help you. Like if it's not your strong suit, just like find someone who it is, because even like open to close, I don't know, people probably don't know what that is. It's a program that helps manage transactions.
Sure.
You know, it took me and another girl on my team probably a month to get that set up, every day working on it. And it's programming and it's all that. But we had a strong motivation to get it done.
Right.
Because what used to take us an hour and a half to do will now take us 10 minutes. And so, you know, even for efficiency, even for everything, like you have to have an end goal and see it, but you have to use it every day. You have to keep on it. Otherwise, figure out what works for you. I mean, because I have another transaction coordinator on my team that is not techy, and she writes it on a piece of paper, and I'm like, you do whatever works best for you personally.
As long as it's done right.
As long as it's done right and to our standards, and
right.
do whatever you want to do.
Yep. And consistency. Consistent with whatever you're doing. Love it. All right. We're almost out of time. So do you have any advice for any new entrepreneurs, new realtors, or people who are just struggling in starting their businesses or in real estate right now?
I would just say, like, try to make those connections. I mean, even if it's not someone in your industry, like just like this podcast, find someone else who's been doing it. Watch YouTube, honestly, like learn things about things you don't like and you don't know, just so you understand. Like I hated the money side of the business and the facts of like taxes, tracking everything, expenses, write-offs, all that stuff. So overwhelming to me, but like I sat down and forced myself to learn it. I now pay someone to do it, but at least I know what's going on.
Right.
And I understand all the different steps, and then I figured out it's just not something I want to do. But I think it is important to force yourself to learn the things you don't like.
Or at least have a working knowledge of it enough so you're not being taken advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, some days it's going to be really hard. And it's really frustrating, but you really do just have to have a reason and a purpose for doing all this so that you stay motivated. And I mean, it's worth it for most people. I mean, not every person is built to be an entrepreneur either. That's the other thing I would like to say is just, you know, I've had people come to me now that I've like been doing this for 7 years, that are like, oh, I want to do that. And I'm like, you know, you really do have to have a passion for what you're doing,
right? Or
it's not going to work.
Right. And so not only a passion, but the standards and motivation to keep doing it too, because you could be passionate about it, but like, if you're not going to push yourself enough and the grit to do it, it's just not worth it.
Right. Because you're going to get told no, you're going to fail, you're going to have it happen over and over and over and over. And you still have to want to stand back up and keep going and keep doing it and be like, this is my goal. You have clear goals in front of you and reasons why you're doing things.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Flourish Mindset. Don't forget to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode.